Hello my friends and welcome back. This Monday we will begin from news from North Korea because we have now more details of what Kim Jong and the North Korean army is getting from Russia for sending up to 10,000 troops to the Russian army. And yes, we already know that they're getting $2,000 per soldiers per month, which does not go to the soldiers or their families. It goes to the Kim family, which is about 20 million per month dollars to the Kim family. But also, in return for deploying its forces to Russia, North Korea reportedly requested 600,000 to 700,000 tons of rice annually, and a $2,000 salary for its soldiers fighting in Ukraine, and access to advanced space technology. Now the rice part is very interesting because when they are asking for it, it means they're lacking it, meaning Russia is kind of North Korean way out for starvation. The country is facing starvation for the last 2 decades, and China has been saving them time and time again. That's why we haven't seen a mass starvation, but they're on the brink of it all the time. When Russia begins to send hundreds of thousands of tons of rice to North Korea, they will save the country from the brink of starvation, which they are on all the time. Continuing on the North Korean topic, we already know that they have sent the Russian army millions, close to 10 million soon, artillery shells. And here we can see Russian soldiers being assigned a task. These Ivans are cleaning the North Korean artillery shells, these are mortar shells I think, from rust. Because they are kind of rusty, they have been preserved from the Cold War era in oil or in, I don't know how you call this substance that you put weapons in and artillery shells in, this very oily, thick liquid. Well, you have to clean your weapons and your artillery shells from it before you can use them. And here we can see them doing it. Preparing the ammo, cleaning of rust, sorting and packing. I'm cleaning, Lyosha. Not we are cleaning, yeah. He's complaining that Lyosha is filming, not cleaning. Someone's task is to film. Others, yes, I'm managing the process. Lyosha is the manager and Ivan here is the cleaner. Well, they report that up to about 1 out of 5 of these North Korean shells fires properly. There are a lot of dots, there are a lot of explosions in the barrels, a lot of shells that just don't fire out of the barrel. The North Korean shells are very low quality and pose a significant threat to the teams firing them from the gun because they can explode right there. If they do fire, they usually miss the target because they are very imprecise. That affects their flight path. And if they do hit the ground, a lot of them are dots. But since there's so many of them, millions of them, they still do have an effect for Russia. The United States and NATO should consider the possibility of attacking directly North Korean troops if they fight on the side of the Russian Federation in Ukraine. And that is said by the chairman of the Intelligence Committee of the United States House of Representatives, Congressman Mike Turner. I don't know Mike Turner, and you might say, oh, don't listen to him, don't listen to him. I agree with what he says on this specific instance that the United States has said that if North Korea joins the war against Ukraine, we will remove all restrictions from the weapons. North Korea has joined the war against Ukraine on the Russian side. Nobody declares war nowadays. Very, very few countries do it. Almost in no instance anybody. It's like 20th century when you declared war. North Korea is at war with Ukraine. Iran is at war with Ukraine. And with that I would say also that China is at war with Ukraine. If the United States is waiting for an official declaration of war, then that is not going to happen. By the way, North Korea recently tested a new ballistic missile with record flight time and altitude. The world merely watches as the threat grows. Through Moscow's assistance, North Korea has advanced its artillery and missile capabilities. Now they are learning the tactics of modern warfare, Thousands of North Korean soldiers are already near Ukraine's borders, preparing to fight, and the world is still watching. Yeah, this post refers to the fact that the Western powers, the big military powers, have had no significant reaction to the fact, and this is the reality, that North Korea is at war with Ukraine and sending troops and artillery shells, and we'll get to it later, but also food. They're sending their food. I mean, they don't have enough themselves. They're in this war in any sense, in any meaning of the word. They are at war with Ukraine, and there's no reaction from the West. Now, if we would go 5 years back and somebody would say North Korea is at war with Ukraine, people would call the guy crazy. You're nuts. You're not connected to reality. In what world can North Korea be at war with Ukraine? This is now. Right now, it's going on. It's the reality. And we see no reaction from the West. By the way, the weirdest thing, as I mentioned before, is that they are in fact sending their food packets, MREs, meal ready to eat. I mean, this is a can of North Korean meat from their military MRE. And I mean, North Korean meat, it sounds so bad already. They have already sent 10,000 meat to the Russian army, but now they also send their canned meat, and I'm not sure that this is beef or chicken or, you know, it might be a dog or a cat. I mean, we're talking about North Koreans, and the country is facing starvation for 2 decades. They eat what they can, they put into this can what they can. So, if I was a Russian troop receiving this like meat here, I wouldn't be sure I'm eating beef. And there's also a food review done by another Russian soldier opening up this North Korean can of meat with yeah, it don't look good, but honestly none of these canned meats looks good. Usually they taste pretty good if you're tasted those, even raw, like they taste amazing. But this, I'm not, like, it could be a dog. I'm just putting it out there. I cannot confirm anything, but it could be a dog. Could be somebody's pet. My friends, I don't have a sponsor today, so, well, who am I kidding? I do have a sponsor, and it's you guys. It's Buy Me a Coffee monthly members. You are the sponsor of this channel, and you keep it going. So, for the appreciation of you, I'll do it in the weirdest way possible. I'll be butchering your names with my Estonian pronunciation. Nathan Mose, Donald Demers, and I've said your name like 10 times already. You rejoin all the time. Thank you, my dude. Thank you. Daril Foster, Thomas E. Foster. Hey, we got a dynasty of Fosters here. Thank you, dynasty of Fosters. And if you like my channel and you want to become a sponsor of this channel, then Buy Me a Coffee monthly membership. That's the way to do it. Link is in the description below. Let's go on. Look at this photo, my friends. This is a Ukrainian Baba Yaga, but look at this. Hey, does it remind you of something? It reminds me of the first nuclear bomb. I mean, what was it? The Fat Man or Enola Gay? That was the plane. But it looked like that. This is like the minuscule version of it. This, my friends, is a 40-kilogram munition. Now, the Baba Yagas I gave to the Ukrainian army that you paid for, you donated for them. We gave about 5 or 6, I have to look it up. They carried 20 kilograms, and that was like 8 months ago. Now they carry 40. That's 100% increase in weight. That is a massive bomb. It makes a massive kaboom. Actually, it's not just a massive bomb. This is a thermobaric munition. So if it is dropped from a hole on the ceiling into a building, well, you know how thermobaric warheads work, that building will be no more. This is very deadly. I haven't talked about the Kadyrovites for a long time, Chechen troops in Ukraine, because they don't really play any significant part in battles, because they're usually the barrier troops. Since they cannot really fight, they can do TikTok videos. So they made another one, and I want to show it to you because it's kind of stupid. In this one, we can see one Kadyrovite attempting to shoot down a Ukrainian FPV drone with an RPG. Now, FPV drones are almost impossible to shoot down even with Kalashnikovs, so small arms fire. It's very difficult. It's doable, but it's very difficult. If you have an entire magazine, still it's hard. When you have one big shot, propelled grenade, RPG, What are you hoping to do? Look at it. Look at this. Boom. First of all, whatever goes up has to come down. That rocket-propelled grenade, that will come down somewhere. And since they are barrier troops, and FPVs are usually coming from Ukrainian side, that means Ukrainian side, Russian troops, Chechens, who are barrier troops. So he's firing up into the air with an RPG, and it will come down probably on the Russian troops that they are supposed to barrier, you know. So somebody will get that present that just went up in the air. Now, I cannot show the rest of the video. I do apologize. It's YouTube and I have to abide the laws. But I can just tell you that they did not shoot down the FPV, and the FPV did come to pay them a visit. Kadyrov is going to send 84,000 Chechens to war against Ukraine, according to the National Resistance Center. He wants to send them to the front, not part of mobilization, but apparently as on a volunteer basis. Now the thing is, even before Prigozhin's mutiny and march upon Moscow, even before that, strongmen and oligarchs in Russia started to gather their own private militaries because they figured Russia will collapse at some point, and then as many men as you have, that's how strong you are, that's going to protect you, that's your guarantee of survival. Because this has happened in Russia before. Strong men with militaries, that's what counts, not political power. Prigozhin only showed that point and hammered it in with his march to Moscow. He only had about 10,000 troops in his convoy, and he marched straight across Russia to the capital. No Russian troops anywhere stopped them. Nobody even dared to fire shots at them. They shot down planes and choppers. They destroyed Putin loyalists, units, no problems at all. So anybody in Russia then got the idea that if anything were to happen in Russia, which it will happen, people are not stupid, they know it, then you gotta have a private military because that's your guarantee of survival, nothing else. So that's why the story is important, because if you see titles like Kadyrov is going to send 84,000 Chechens to war against Ukraine, then this is not true. It's just not true. Kadyrov is puppet of Putin. He's getting massive amounts of money from Putin. If anything were to happen to Putin, if there is going to be an internal power struggle and these private militaries come to play, you better have a big private military of your own. So Kadyrov would never throw away his troops. He's getting ready for what has happened in Russia time and time again. The power vacuum, the struggle for power, and the internal fighting, and then he will need his 84,000 troops. So I don't believe he's going to waste his men. Up until now also they're only barrier troops because he don't want them dead. He needs them when he needs them in the future. Now for a moment, let's jump to Europe. People sometimes are saying that they are tired of this war or turning apathetic to this war and feeling like it's not their war in Europe and in the United States of America, maybe all across the West. Let's just look in reality. How many, it's very stupid, but that's the reality. How many cups of coffee does it cost for that country's citizen to support Ukraine? Or how much this country has given to Ukraine, and this translated to a single person's cups of coffee per month. For Germany, it's 1.9, for Poland 1.7. As you can see, Estonians are fanatical supporters of Ukraine. We have given 6.5 cups of coffee per person per month, which is still okay, it's totally fine, but it makes a massive difference for Ukraine. We have Finland, Sweden and Norway with 4, 5 and 4. I mean, and as south we go to Europe, the less cups of coffee you can get for the support they have given to Ukraine. Well, I want to illustrate the point that support for Ukraine doesn't cost for the single person almost nothing, but the benefits from defeating Russia for every European citizen are immeasurable, they're massive. The benefits, the dividends of defeating Russia are, but not only, the freedom of press, the freedom of speech, the economic security of the European Union, the military and political security of the democratic systems of the European Union, and like endless list of things that are the dividends of defeating Russia, and they cost what? 3 cups of coffee per month per person. I take that deal. It's a very nice deal. Now, my friends, let's again watch a video that comes straight from the Russian soldiers who are by now probably knocked out cold or bushing up daisies or pushing up sunflowers somewhere on the Ukrainian field. And for that very reason, that before this, like on this video, they know they're going to be sleeping with the fishes in 10 hours. I don't think they are lying, because they're going to be gone. Why would they lie? That's why I want to share these videos, because I find no incentive to lie to the very ground troop, the mid-assault guys from the Russian army, because they are going to take the blow for the lying of upstairs, you know. Due to a shortage of small aerial reconnaissance, Russian ground recon groups are being sent to their demise in Kursk region. In this case, a group of 16 men from the 810th Marine Brigade were ordered to attack head-on the machine guns they had just discovered. Instead of the expected retreat, most of them perished, so now they're likely seeking help from someone, perhaps the president. And in this video, the guys are speaking right before they have to go to the assault, and I'm not gonna read you all of the subtitles here, but the thing is, this is a recon group. Recon is massively important for militaries. Based on recon information, bigger formations do their maneuvers, and they have to know what's up there so they can prepare. These are the guys who get the information from the boots on the ground. They're recon group. They're not an assault group. They're just there to gather information and pull back. So they find Ukrainian machine gun positions. It's good recon. There are the positions, guide fire onto them. Well, Russians did not have at that specific moment any artillery pieces ready to guide fire onto the machine gun positions, no FPVs ready. What was the order back to these guys after discovering Ukrainian machine guns? Attack, attack, attack. You just found them, go and eliminate them. Attacking without armored vehicles straight onto machine guns is, I mean, you don't need to be a genius to know this. It's deadly. You're going to be pushing up sunflowers. And that's the situation of this recon group. And it ties into a larger attitude of the Russian command structure of using anybody, drone operators, medics, tank commanders, anybody as mid-assault troops. Just attack. That's the primal order, the only order. Attack. Don't matter with who, with what, just go. Go to the Ukrainian positions, attack. And that's the situation here also. Not an isolated event. It is the reflection of the entire Russian command structure in this small little recon group who is now fertilizing Ukrainian sunflower fields. And tying into this very same topic, we have a new record, and it's an anti-record. It's a very bad record. In October, Russian losses, manpower losses, with injured, with missing, and with KIAs altogether, not only KIAs, are 41,980. This is a new record. Russian assaults are at all-time high. Right now, at this very time of recording this video, for the last month, they have been at all-time high. And Russian losses are at all-time high. Now, Putin is able to recruit about 30,000 plus men into the military every month, which means that he's holding the numbers pretty much at the same place. But as soon as the recruitment lowers, as soon as the BMPs and T-80s, T-72s, T-55s run out of the storehouses, which they will, we'll touch upon that subject also, Russia will start to lose ground in Ukraine, because if they don't attack, they lose. That has been proved time and time again with the liberation of Kherson, with the liberation of Kharkiv Oblast. If they don't attack, they retreat. The only way they keep ground and gain it is attack. So that's what they do. And I just mentioned it, good timing. We will analyze Russian armored reserves, because we have satellite footage of it and plenty of it. It's for everybody free to analyze. The links are in the description below. Go and look at these photos yourself. Here's a story we worked on for a year. We analyzed 24 Russian military bases behind Baltic and Polish borders and engaged top-level military sources to evaluate our findings. So this is behind Baltics and Polish, behind my country also. These very specific bases right here are the bases that Russia would use to attack my country if it would ever happen. So it's very close to home for me. Let's start with good news. Satellite images provided by Planet indicate that equipment and vehicles have largely disappeared from Russian bases, such as here in Luga, just 120 kilometers from the Estonian border with Russia. Or here at the base of the 18th Motorized Rifle Division in Kyiv, Kaliningrad. 35 kilometers from the Estonian border in Pskov, or in Estonian Pihkva, used to be actually Estonia, according to the Peace of Tartu signed by Estonian government and the Soviet Union in 1920s. The Soviet Union's leadership, with Lenin ahead of it, recognized Estonia as a country, the independence of our country, and Pskov or Pihkva as part of Estonia. I mean, we have the signature. But now it's Russia, and they're not giving it back to us. The Pskov is home to the 76th Descent Unit, the 2nd Spetsnaz Brigade. These units would be some of the first to engage in case of war. They would try to seize key locations in Estonia or Latvia. Luckily, the units, especially the 76th, have been hit hard in Ukraine and have lost a lot of quality. Estonian military intelligence assesses it has only 30% of former capacity remaining. This might be described well by the expansion of the Pskov military cemetery. Yeah, where there used to be special forces of the 76th Air Assault Brigade. Now there is an expanded cemetery, all thanks to Ukraine. I mean, this is why we're giving so much to Ukraine, because the very special forces units designed to attack Estonia and Latvia and the Baltics have been minced up in Ukraine by Ukrainian freedom fighters. We owe it to Ukraine as the Baltics. Let's move back to Luga. The rocket brigade there still has 12 Iskander missile systems at its disposal. With a range of 500 kilometers, these missiles can be used to reach even the westernmost reaches of Estonia. They could basically start firing Estonia right now from their garages. They wouldn't even have to drive out anywhere, and the warning time is very short, said General Veiko Vello-Palm, recently retired division commander of Estonian Armed Forces. Early warning is one of the toughest challenges for the Baltic states. Russia can stockpile ammunition during exercises. Ukraine's experience showed that deploying 200,000 troops took Russia only 18 days. Why I read it all to you like that is because this is close to home. This is my country right here, and we're talking about bases that exist there to take over Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. This is it. This is the most important information for me personally. In the worst case scenario, Estonia and Latvia could wait for 2 to 3 weeks for allies' help to arrive, according to Ben Hodges. NATO air power would probably appear immediately. You're not alone, but you won't see a long column of Abrams tanks in the first 2 weeks. So first 2 weeks there will not be Western armor on the ground, but there will be. I gotta say against that now, because in Lithuania they are building out in the final stages the entire home of an entire Western brigade, armor brigade in Lithuania. Building out the houses, the canteens, the sleeping, like everything, the entire logistical complex for an entire one brigade to be always stationed in Lithuania. So there will be Western armor and boots on the ground always in the Baltics. Most likely scenario wouldn't be Russia trying to fully occupy the Baltic countries. Their goal would be to break up NATO, to show that the alliance and its members are not really ready to come to the aid of every country, Hodges said. And now we get to the truth of it, because nobody really declares war anymore, and definitely not Russia. This is how they do it, and this is the most dangerous, because we have seen in Ukraine also that the West does not react to tiny steps from Russia, but these tiny steps escalate into a massive war, and the West still has not reacted. Imagine a scenario where Russian troops enter Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania, occupy part of it, and then stop and ask, do you really want to start a nuclear war over this? Now this is where we get to the true reality. Any type of Russian military campaign against the Baltics would lead to a series of dilemmas for NATO's political leaders. According to General Palm, the first mistake would be the Western politicians only allowing to hit back at the precise locations from which Russia is striking. The second mistake would be that the West, fearing escalation, would limit how deep into Russia it would be allowed to attack back. Have you heard of this problem somewhere already? We see it in Ukraine. For a victory against Russia, which is very, very possible, because the West has the weapons, even Ukraine has the weapons, there has to be no restrictions. Destroy everything, everywhere, all at once. This is the strategy that it takes to win over Russia. But this is not the strategy, unfortunately, the West is ready to adopt, because they want to de-escalate the conflict. The good news is that both Estonian armed forces and NATO know how to militarily hit back. All the enemy's military force must be wiped out in the few first days, says General Herem. That's why Estonia is buying 1.6 billion euros worth of weapons and ammunition, including ATACMS. And I am very proud, as an Estonian patriot, I'm very proud that our small country, Baltic or Nordic country, tiny country with tiny revenues, is one of the largest buyers of ammunition in the last 2 years in the European Union. It is a crazy fact. One of the smallest economies in the EU, not the smallest, one of the smallest is one of the biggest ammunition buyers in the EU. It's a crazy, crazy fact, but it shows our resolve to defend ourselves. Thank you, Holger Roonemaa, an Estonian. Thank you for this thread. It's a great analysis. Now, my friends, I'll go into the reality of predictions. And I do make predictions. And my prediction is that this winter there will be a massive electrical and water infrastructure catastrophe in Russia. Russian Telegram channels report that residents of the Astrakhan regional center have been left without cold water, against the background of the lack of hot water, which they have not had for several months. After that, the regional administration came to the town of Narimanov in Russian Astrakhan region. As explained by the district authorities, the deterioration of water and heat supply network is more than 70%. In addition, there was a major accident at the water pipeline, which has been eliminated only now. Instead of fixing the problem in their country, Russian authorities destroy Ukraine. Now, the key here to take away is that the deterioration of water and heat supply networks is more than 70%. This is not isolated to this specific incident, it's all across Russia. Most of the water pipelines, hot and cold water and electrical infrastructure in all of Russia was built in the 60s, 70s and 80s, and after that almost none of it has been replaced or repaired, which means they are at the end of their life cycle. Any such systems need regular maintenance, and the EU is doing it. We also have old water infrastructure, but it's very expensive to fix it, and we are paying to fix it. It takes a lot of money. It's painful, but we do it because we have to, because that's the only way you can have running hot water in any city. Russians don't do it, and they work for the 2-3 decades that the EU has to pump money into replacing it. Russians just work. But now they're at the end of their life cycle, and now the pain is beginning to show on a massive scale. 70% wear and tear, gets to 80, gets to 90 in the next few years. It's already beginning to show, but it's getting larger year after year. Putin has been sending plumbers and company workers who fix this stuff into war, and the results, again, it's a prediction, but I think the result will be that this year there will be a massive catastrophe. Heat piping will burst in many cities, leaving thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of citizens without hot water. There will be, water and electricity don't mix. Some of the water will leak to electricity, wiring. There will be massive issues with electricity. There will be minus 30 weathers, 30 Celsius weathers, and no electricity and no hot water means there will be casualties of frostbite and cold. So that's my prediction. Let's see if it becomes true. There was a drama, massive international drama of Ukrainian war, and it started on Friday, 2 days ago. Google publishes updated images of maps showing the placement of Ukrainian military systems, but they cannot be removed upon request because it's the weekend. Here, the reports are that Russian bastards are already actively distributing these images. And again, I have to say, you say, Artur, why are you showing this? Why are you showing it? Russians are showing it 2 days ago already. Russian troops have seen these, they are sharing these. This is not OPSEC right now at all. But yeah, in this photo, I think we see a Ukrainian Patriot system. But the thing is, everybody's talking, blaming Google and all of that, but let's get to the bottom of this, honestly, and here it is. This image is from 2023, so it's over 1 year old. We know about Patriots in the airport since more than a year ago. Russia has satellites, drones, spies, and can see almost everything. There are no other places for air defense in central Kyiv. This is not just Google, it's also Maxar and Planet and Copernicus. Yeah, this is public ever since the beginning of the war. This is not secret, it has not been secret, so the refreshment of Google satellite imagery is nothing that would change the outcome of the war. Now, my friends, I do want to share the message of the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, and I do agree with every last word of it. Tusk from Poland is right. Do we really need the Americans to defend 500 million Europeans from 150 million Russians? It's absurd. Now, I don't want this message to be downplay of the Americans. I mean, Americans are a great ally to the European Union and to NATO. The point of this message is that we can and we should relieve the pressure from the Americans and take up our own defense. Europe has money, Europe has weapons. What they don't have are strong political leaders and the will. We have capabilities to destroy every Russian military asset that they have. There are these weapon capabilities in Europe right now. But there is no strong leadership and political will. Unfortunately, some European leaders are very Chamberlainian right now, but we need Churchill. We don't have it yet. Hey, we haven't seen the dude for a long time, but here he is, Steven Seagal, and I think he ate the entire North Korean military, guys. He's getting big. Well, here he is, resurfaced. I have not much to say about him, except look at this photo. I mean, the photo speaks for itself. Now, my friends, let's continue on Russian economy. And I do have predictions here also, and always have had them ever since the beginning of the war. I have strongly believed in sanctions and their effect, although there are circumventing them, and European Union countries are exporting through Kyrgyzstan into Russia. I do still believe that sanctions have a massive death blow to Russia. Also, imagine being the largest country on earth, but having to import butter from this far away that is also desert. Yes, because Russians now are having massive issues with producing butter. So they're importing from United Arab Emirates, a desert country. And I mean, this butter is probably made from camels, camel balls, camel milk. I'm not really sure if United Arab Emirates has a massive farming industry for cows, if you know anything about it. But the fact that Russia, a massive agricultural country, has to import butter from a desert country in the Middle East says something about the capability of their economy. Russian losses on the battlefield have escalated recently, but the biggest headache for Moscow are domestic, with 21% and climbing. Russia has one of the highest basic interest rates in the world, together with its depleting stockpiles, the lack of workers and the demographic catastrophe increasing to levels unseen. And Tender here doesn't even mention the heating and electrical infrastructure catastrophe that I'm predicting. It's not even like, we're not even talking about this yet. This is just another clear sign that Russia won't be capable of to sustain this war for a long time. Literally, Putin's only hope is to have weak Western leaders in power to avert his total defeat shortly before it happens. Unfortunately, some of the Western leaders are weak, are Chamberlainian, are afraid of Russia. They're afraid of their own fear and act upon that. So there are Putin's allies running some of the Western countries. In previous posts, I said that Russia cannot survive this longer than 2 to 3 years, but with that data plus the latest satellite pics of the stockpiles, it is even below 2 years. What it takes, however, is that the West has to finally wake up and push every detractor, appeaser and weakling and corrupt official away. I do agree. Since the beginning of the war, food prices in Russia have risen by 87%. And also I do have to say the disclaimer that yes, it is Estonia also. We had one of the largest inflation percentages since 2022 in the European Union. We're right next to Russia and a big portion of our exports went to Russia before the full-scale invasion. And we got hurt pretty bad of cutting the exports to Russia, but we did it. And our inflation also rose. So I have to bring it out there to give you context. But Russia as such a massive country, an agricultural country and exporting coal, oil and everything, still their food prices are up almost 100%. Such figures are given by the research holding Romir. It has been keeping statistics for 10 years on the basis of receipts of families from 240 settlements. So from the beginning of 2022 to September 2024, the prices of 200 goods have increased by 87% on average. And to the photo, look at these beautiful butter sticks in plastic defensive containers so Russians wouldn't steal them. Now I want to bring out one country. If I mentioned some Western countries appeasing Russia, I don't mean Poland. I never mean Poland, because Poland is acting how they should act. They have the memory of Second World War, of being squeezed between Germany and the Soviet Union or the Russian Empire. It's the same thing. They have the memory of losing about 25% of their entire pre-war population. They have the memory of being betrayed by, I'll say it, Chamberlain. So they're not messing around anymore. Here we see Poland building out their defensive lines, well actually their border with Russia, Kaliningrad, Russia. I mean, other side Poland has Belarus, and they're building defensive lines there also. But this is European Union standards, anti-tank obstacles with barbed wire, and I do hope that they mine the hell out of this border. And now we jump to Moldova. They had the most important elections in the last 2 decades. About 2 to 3 weeks ago, they had the referendum where European Union path won. That referendum, people chose to change the constitution. They gave the government the right to change the constitution and put the European Union directory into the constitution. So now, according to the country's most important law, they have to be EU-minded, EU path. And now they elected their president. And who won? Maia Sandu, the European Union-minded president. She got 54% of the votes, and the Russian puppet, Russian-minded Alexander, I cannot pronounce that, got 45% of the vote. So Moldova has spoken. The people of Moldova, with the referendum and now the presidential election, have spoken. And they want to become a part of the EU. Thank you, my friends, for watching this video. I'll be back for you on Wednesday, so in 2 days. So be sure to be back for it. Until then, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.